Thank you. Mr. Scovel, you talked a little bit about the integrated master schedule. Did you say, and did I miss, what you believe the status of the integrated master schedule is?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't say, and I appreciate the opportunity to clarify that, FAA is working on that recommendation. We're informed that by December of this year, FAA anticipates completing that work. We'll have a chance to look at it. We'll assess whether it meets the intent and letter of the recommendation, and perhaps be in a position to close it at that point.
But you do believe that's key to how we move forward?
It is key, and the effort is underway on the part of FAA.
Hey, you've identified some of the challenges in development and implementation of NextGen. Could you tell us what you believe the problems are? I mean, is this funding related? Is it organizationally related? What do you believe is the root of this?
Mr. Chairman, we don't believe, looking at the past record, that funding has been a problem. Congress has been fairly generous with the agency for its NextGen lines of business, to the tune of $3.6, $3.8 billion. As I mentioned earlier, FAA has really had the luxury of being able to try to proceed on a pretty broad front across transformational programs, longer range, as well as trying its hand at some of the near-term improvements that the users have been most eager for. Now the situation is different with regard to funding, and FAA will have to make some very tough priority decisions in consultation with the users. However, there are programmatic and organizational challenges that are outlined in our statement concerning organizational culture, inconsistent leadership, leading to a different messaging of vision and so forth. Programmatic problems have led to some of the technical difficulties that the agency has encountered, specifically with ERAM. That would be the best example of that, but that we anticipate the agency will also encounter as it modernizes its automation platforms in the TRACON facilities. So all of those technical, programmatic, organizational challenges persist in NextGen. We would say, while funding in the past may not have been a problem, certainly it's, as was mentioned earlier, it's the elephant in the room for FAA in this committee today.
Do you have any specific recommendations for either Congress in general or the Transportation Committee or the Aviation Subcommittee of what additionally we can or should do to help move this along?
I think Administrator Huerta has laid out a pretty good outline of where he thinks the agency needs to go in order to advance NextGen, even facing the difficult fiscal challenges that we all know he does face today. I would urge the committee and Congress to hold FAA's feet to the fire. Please use our office as your tool to help you do that. We'd welcome the opportunity to further work with you and the agency to review FAA's programs, its plans, to see whether it has made good on much of what Administrator Huerta has said today regarding prioritization, further collaboration with users, its workforce as well, the near-term steps for PBN and Metroplex improvements, finishing off automation platform modernization with ERAM and what must be done at the TRACONs, and then confronting the very difficult critical design decisions regarding division of responsibility between cockpit and ground facilities and the level of automation. Because only when those decisions are finally made, and they are difficult policy decisions, not within the purview of my office, but certainly for the agency and the committee, then the long-range benefits of ADS-B and Datacom can be put in place. If final benefits are ever to be felt by the taxpayer, we believe it will be in FAA's ability to consolidate and realign its facilities as ADS-B fully reaches its potential, perhaps to make adjustments to the workforce, certainly to close some of its most aging facilities and to consolidate those. But those are difficult policy decisions for the administration and for the Congress.
Mr. Huerta, is there anything additional you can think of or suggest that we can do from this end to help you in your efforts to this humongous task?
I think that it is important that we all recognize that this is a very large and complex program. And as we've talked about, we have built an excellent foundation where we can now add additional capabilities. I think that, as you heard from the Inspector General, we have been in discussions and have been responsive to many of the recommendations made by the Inspector General. And in fact, in their most recent review of the ERAM program, the Inspector General acknowledged that significant progress had been made in getting that program back on track. I think that where the committee can be helpful is to go back to where we were with FAA reauthorization and recognize that we had all identified as a country that this is an extremely important initiative to enable us to provide support and to maintain leadership for an aviation industry. We all knew then that it was an incredibly complex undertaking, but that the cost of not doing it greatly exceeded the cost of doing that. And we need to keep that in mind as we go through this difficult climate in the years.